The night was cold and silent, the streets of the outpost almost empty. Only the sound of distant machinery filled the air. A lone human named Daniel walked down the narrow road, his boots echoing against the metal floor. He was tired from long hours of work, but something strange caught his attention. From the corner of his ear, he heard a faint sound. It was not the sound of wind, not the hum of engines. It was softer, weaker, like someone crying through cloth. He stopped, his body stiff. He listened again. Yes, it was there, a muffled sob, hidden behind the shadows of the old warehouse. Curiosity pulled him closer. He walked slowly, his heart beating harder with each step. The air smelled of rust and old oil. The place was known for being dangerous after dark. Many workers never dared to come here, but Daniel could not ignore that sound. It was a voice, broken and desperate. At the corner of the building, he found a figure on the ground. A body slumped against the wall, covered in dirt and bruises. A sack had been tied tightly over the head, ropes binding the arms. The figure trembled weakly. Daniel froze, shock filling his chest. Someone had been left here to die. He bent down, his hands shaking as he touched the rope. The figure tried to speak, but the voice was weak, muffled by the sack. He pulled it off carefully, and what he saw made his breath stop. It was not a human, it was an alien woman. Her skin pale with a faint glow, her eyes large but filled with pain. She looked older, but her face carried a strange beauty. A widow, perhaps, abandoned. Daniel knew the colony had many aliens who lived under human rule, but never had he seen one treated this way. Before he could say anything, whispers came from behind him. A group of locals stood at a distance. Their eyes cold, one of them spoke harshly. "Don't listen to her. She's crazy." Another spat on the ground. "She deserves it. Leave her there." Daniel looked back at the alien widow. Her lips moved slowly, her voice broken. "Please. Water. Food." Her words were barely sound, more like air escaping her chest. The crowd grew larger. People muttered among themselves. Some laughed, others shook their heads. "She killed her own husband," one man shouted. "She lost her mind." "She lies to everyone," another added. The more they spoke, the more Daniel felt confusion rise inside him. He looked at the ropes, at the bruises on her wrists, at the way she tried to lift her head but could not. Could this truly be madness? Or was it cruelty disguised as truth? His chest tightened. His mind screamed for him to walk away. He had no reason to interfere. He was just a worker, not a soldier anymore. But something inside him refused to leave. The alien widow's eyes met his. They were filled with something he could not name. Not anger, not madness, but a deep pain, a plea. It was the kind of look that asked for one thing only: mercy. Daniel stood frozen. The voices around him grew louder. "Walk away, human," someone hissed. "Don't get yourself killed for her." But still, his feet refused to move. He knew one step could change everything if he helped her. He might become a target. If he left her, she would die before morning. The sack lay crumpled on the ground beside her. Its smell of dust and blood filled the air. The ropes were tight, her arms thin. Her strength nearly gone, she tried to speak again. Whispering words he could not fully hear, but he caught enough. "They took everything." "They want me gone," the crowd laughed, shaking their heads. "See, crazy lies again," they said. But Daniel's ears burned, his heart raced. The widow trembled at his feet, his hands tightened into fists. He could not understand why this was happening, why they called her insane, why they would starve her like this. The night grew darker. Wind whistled through the broken steel walls. Daniel looked once more at her face, at the faint tears rolling down her cheeks, and at the cruel eyes of the crowd watching him. A decision weighed heavy on his chest. Should he save the alien widow? Or should he leave before the crowd turned on him? Every second passed like an hour. The silence between cries stretched like an endless rope pulling him apart. Then her faint whisper reached him again. "Please, don't leave me." The words were almost broken, but sharp enough to cut through all the noise around him. Daniel's heart thundered. His hand reached for the knot on her rope. His choice was clear. Even if the whole world called her crazy, even if everyone spat on her name, he could not let another living soul starve before his eyes. But as his fingers touched the rope, he felt the stares burning into his back. He knew the crowd would not forgive him. The danger had just begun. Daniel's fingers tightened on the rope. With one strong pull, he freed the alien widow's wrists. Her thin arms fell to her side. Trembling like branches in the wind, she coughed weakly. Her chest shaking, her lips were pale, her body shivering as though life was leaving her with every breath. The crowd hissed louder. Some shouted insults, some called him a fool. "She will trick you, human," one man spat. "She lies. She lies to everyone," another added. The air around Daniel grew heavy, but he ignored them. His eyes stayed on the widow. She was too weak to stand, but her eyes never left his. He whispered almost to himself, "Why would they do this to you?" His voice cracked, part fear, part anger. The widow's lips moved slowly, her voice was soft, broken like glass. "They killed him," she said. "My husband. They killed him. Then they called me mad." Daniel felt his heart tighten. He leaned closer to catch every word. Around him, the whispers of the crowd grew sharper. "Do not listen. She is crazy. She murdered her own," someone shouted. "Her mind is gone. She belongs in the dirt," another barked. But Daniel looked at the bruises on her wrists, the sack on the ground, and the hunger in her face. It did not look like madness, it looked like cruelty. She struggled to speak again, her voice shaking. "They wanted his land, his power, his name. They said I was broken, that my words meant nothing. They locked me away. They want me silent." Her hands clutched his sleeve as if her life depended on it. "Please believe me, please." Daniel's mind spun. His soldier's instincts whispered caution. Lies were easy. Tricks were common. He had seen prisoners use pity before. But something in her eyes was different. There was no fire of deception, only ashes of grief. The crowd began to step closer, angry faces circling them. "Leave her, human," a tall man growled. "She will drag you into her madness. Walk away while you can." Daniel's jaw clenched. He stood between her and the crowd, his voice steady though his heart pounded. "If she is crazy, why tie her up and starve her? Why not just let her live?" Silence fell for a brief moment. The crowd did not answer. Instead, they muttered, their eyes shifting. It was not madness they feared, it was her truth. The widow looked up at him again. Her tears glistened under the dim light. "They do not want me to speak. They say my words are lies, but I speak only truth. My husband was no traitor, he was loyal. He tried to protect the weak, for that they silenced him. And now me." Daniel's hands shook as he helped her sit up straighter. She leaned against the wall, gasping for air. His mind wrestled with doubts. Was she really telling the truth? Or was this another trap of a broken mind? The crowd's voices poisoned his thoughts. "She's insane. She's a liar. She will kill you next." But deep inside, his gut told him otherwise. He remembered his time in the war, when he had seen innocent faces punished simply for standing on the wrong side. He remembered children crying while soldiers laughed. He remembered how truth was often buried by those with power. The widow's whisper pulled him back. "Please, help me stand." Daniel reached out. His strong arms lifted her gently. Her body was weak, her legs barely holding, but she managed to stay upright with his support. The crowd gasped. Some laughed bitterly. Others cursed him. "Madness spreads, human," one man shouted. "Walk away now or you will share her fate." Daniel looked around, his chest heavy with anger. "If she is mad, let her prove it with her words," he said. "If she lies, we will know. But if she tells the truth, then shame on those who called her crazy." The widow's grip tightened on his arm, her voice soft but steady now. "They fear me, because I know their secrets. My husband discovered their deals. Their betrayals," he tried to speak. "And they killed him. They said I lost my mind. They told everyone I was dangerous, but the danger was never me. It was them." The crowd stirred uncomfortably. Eyes shifted, feet shuffled. No one dared to answer her directly. Daniel felt a cold shiver crawl down his back. If what she said was true, then this was bigger than just one widow. It was corruption. It was a conspiracy that reached into the heart of the colony. And by freeing her, he had just stepped into the fire. The widow's voice dropped to a whisper only he could hear. "They will come for you now. They will not let you leave, but if you help me, together we can show the truth." Daniel's heart pounded harder. He looked at her, broken but unyielding, and then at the angry faces around them. He realized his life had just changed forever. He was no longer just a worker passing by. He had chosen a side. The voices of the crowd grew louder again. Some shouted for him to leave. Others threatened, but Daniel stood his ground, his arm around the widow to keep her standing. His eyes steady, his voice calm. "I will hear her story. All of it." The crowd roared in anger. But deep inside, Daniel knew one thing. Whatever came next, he could not walk away anymore. The night did not end with the freeing of the widow. For Daniel, it was only the beginning. After the angry crowd scattered, he helped the alien widow walk through the back alleys. Her steps were weak, her breath short, but she held on. Each corner they turned felt heavy, as if unseen eyes were watching. Daniel brought her to a small storage hut he sometimes used. The place was dusty, filled with broken crates, but at least it was safe. He gave her water, the liquid spilling from her lips as she drank too quickly. Then he shared a piece of bread he had saved from his meal. She ate slowly, her hands shaking, her eyes grateful. "You should not have saved me," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "They will not forgive this." Daniel leaned against the wall, his arms crossed. "I could not leave you there," he said simply. His voice carried no pride, only truth. The widow lowered her gaze. "My name is Soraya," she murmured. "I was the wife of Kellen, a man they once called a leader. He fought for fairness, for justice between humans and my people. That is why they killed him, and that is why they call me mad." Her words struck him like iron. Daniel remembered hearing rumors of a man named Kellen, a respected alien official who had died suddenly. The story told to the workers was that Kellen had betrayed his people, that his wife lost her mind after his death. Now listening to Soraya, the pieces began to shift, still doubt remained. Daniel had seen clever liars before. He had watched prisoners cry for mercy, only to stab the hand that freed them. He studied her carefully, searching for any sign of trickery. But her face was lined with grief, not deception. "I need proof," Daniel said firmly. "Words are not enough if I am to believe you. I must see something real." Soraya's eyes glistened in the dim light. "Proof exists. My husband kept records hidden away, but they took most of it. What remains is dangerous if they find you searching. You will not live." Daniel's chest tightened. Danger was nothing new to him, but this was different. He was no longer a soldier with orders and comrades. He was alone, choosing a path that could make him a target. Still, something inside him whispered that this was the right thing. "Tell me where," he said. Soraya hesitated, her voice trembling. "There is an old house, my husband's study. It was locked after his death. No one dares to enter. But inside, there may still be records, papers, proof of their lies." Daniel nodded slowly. The risk was clear, yet his decision was made. "Then we will go there." The next morning, before the sun rose, Daniel walked through the settlement streets with his hood low. Soraya followed closely, her thin figure hidden under a cloak he had given her. The air was thick with suspicion. Every passerby seemed to watch. Every whisper seemed to carry their names. They reached the edge of the colony where abandoned houses stood silent. Soraya pointed to a worn building, its windows cracked, its doors chained shut. "This was ours," she whispered. Her hand trembled as she touched the rusted door. Memories flooded her eyes. Daniel broke the chain with a piece of metal. The door creaked open. Dust swirled inside. The air smelled of old paper and stone inside the study. Books and scrolls lay scattered across the floor. Broken shelves leaned against the wall. Soraya moved with shaking steps, her fingers brushing across the desk. He wrote everything here, his meetings, his discoveries. He found proof that certain officials made deals with smugglers, trading lives for wealth. When he tried to reveal it, they silenced him. Daniel bent down, shifting through the papers. His eyes caught a half-burnt journal. He opened it, scanning the words. His heart pounded. The notes were clear. Names, dates, shipments, bribes. Deals made in secret while the colony starved. It was true, but footsteps echoed outside. Daniel froze. He looked at Soraya. She shook her head quickly. "They followed us," she whispered. He stuffed the journal under his cloak. Pulling Soraya toward the back door, shadows moved outside the windows. Voices low and sharp. "Search the house." "They cannot leave alive." Daniel pushed the door open. Guiding Soraya into the narrow alley, they ran quietly, their breaths quick. The night swallowed them, but the danger was close. They hid behind an old generator, listening as Boots entered the house. The voices grew louder. "Check everything. The woman must not escape, and if the human is with her, kill him!" Soraya's face turned pale. Her eyes filled with terror. Daniel gripped her hand firmly, whispering, "Stay quiet, trust me." The men searched for a long time, their torches flashing against the broken walls. Daniel's heart raced, sweat running down his face. But finally the voices faded, the Boots moved away. The danger had passed for now. Soraya clung to him, her whisper shaking. You see now, they fear the truth. They will kill anyone who touches it. Daniel looked at the journal hidden under his cloak. His chest heavy with resolve, he now held proof of her story. But he also carried a death mark on his back. For the first time since he had left the war, Daniel felt he was stepping into another battlefield. Not of guns and bombs, but of lies and secrets. A battle where silence was victory for the enemy, and truth was the only weapon left, and he knew he had just chosen to fight. The night after Daniel freed Soraya, the alien widow, he could not sleep. His mind turned again and again to her words. The whispers of the crowd told him she was mad, but her eyes told another story. Eyes filled not with lies, but with grief and truth. Daniel sat in the corner of the storage hut where she rested. The dim lantern flickered across her face. She slept restlessly, as if her dreams were filled with shadows chasing her. Every time she stirred, she whispered her husband's name. Kalen, when dawn came, Soraya woke slowly, her voice weak but firm. You put yourself in danger for me. You should have walked away. Now they will come for you too. Daniel frowned. His arms crossed. Let them come, he said. But first I want the truth. Why do they call you crazy? What are they hiding? Soraya's hands trembled as she pulled her cloak tighter. Because I know their secrets. They fear me because I carry memories of what they have done. They took my husband from me, they stole everything, and they wanted me to vanish, but I did not vanish. I survived. Her words sank deep into Daniel's chest. He remembered war days when lies were painted as truth, when whole villages were erased from maps because leaders wished them forgotten. This felt the same, but he needed more than words. If I am to believe you, he said carefully, I must see something real, not just stories. Soraya looked down, silence stretching between them. Finally, she whispered, My husband wrote everything. His journals, his notes, they hold the truth. They hid or burned much of it, but some remains, hidden where they fear to tread. Daniel leaned forward. Where? Her eyes lifted, sharp with both hope and fear. In the old temple ruins beyond the fields, my husband stored his writings there. He trusted stone more than men if they are still there. You will find proof of their treachery. The thought of sneaking into forbidden ruins made Daniel's blood tighten. The colony guards often warned of danger there, claiming wild beasts roamed the place. Perhaps it was true, but Daniel knew fear was also a weapon of the powerful. That night, he led Soraya through the outer paths of the colony. They moved quietly, cloaked in shadows. Every whisper of wind sounded like footsteps. Every flicker of light made Daniel's hand tighten around the small blade he carried. The ruins stood like broken teeth against the dark sky. Old stone walls covered in moss, silent and forgotten. Soraya's breath grew shaky as they entered. This is where he came often. He said truth must be buried in stone until the time is right, she whispered. They searched the broken halls, the silence pressing heavy. Finally, Daniel's eyes caught a crack in the floor near the altar. He pulled away loose stones, revealing a small box sealed with wax. He opened it carefully. Inside were scrolls and journals. The ink faded but clear. Daniel read quickly. His heart pounded harder with each word. Names of officials, secret trades, lists of weapons sold to raiders, ships exchanged for blood. It was no madness, it was conspiracy. Soraya's hands shook as she touched the pages. This was his life's work. This was what they feared, she said. Before Daniel could answer, a sound echoed through the ruins. The crunch of boots against stone. Shadows moved at the entrance. A harsh voice rang out. They are here, find them. Soraya's face turned pale. Daniel grabbed the box, pulling her behind a broken wall. Torches flickered in the distance. Armed men spreading through the ruins. Searching. They followed us, Soraya whispered. Terror in her voice. Daniel's mind raced. His soldier's instinct returned. He knew how to hide, how to move in silence. He guided her through cracks in the walls, keeping low as the men spread out. Their voices grew louder. The woman must not escape. Kill the human if you see him. Every step felt like a battle. Daniel's grip on the box tightened. Inside were the answers, the proof. But proof meant nothing if they died here. They slipped out through a broken passage at the far end. Running into the wild grass behind them, the ruins filled with angry shouts. The hunt had begun when they finally stopped, their lungs burning. Soraya clutched his arm. Do you see now? They fear not my madness, but my memory. They will kill us both to keep the world blind. Daniel looked at the box in his hands. The weight of it felt heavier than any weapon he had ever carried. It was not bullets or bombs, but truth. and truth was more dangerous than fire. For the first time, Daniel understood he was no longer just protecting a widow. He was standing against something vast, something hidden in the shadows. And once a man steps into the shadows of conspiracy, there is no turning back. The night air was cold as Daniel and Soraya stopped to rest in the shelter of a half-collapsed barn. Their breaths came heavy, their clothes torn from running through the grass. Daniel placed the box of journals carefully on the ground. His eyes stayed fixed on the shadows outside, always expecting a patrol. Soraya's hands hovered over the box as if it were treasure. Her voice trembled. These words are his last breath. If the world hears them, my husband will live again if they remain hidden. Then he truly dies. Daniel knelt and opened the box. Inside lay worn journals, stained with time. The pages smelled of dust and old ink. He flipped one open. The writing was rough but clear. Names of powerful men were written again and again, alongside amounts of money, shipments, and secret meetings. He read aloud, Governor Halvin, 3 shipments of rations stolen, sold to raiders for weapons. Daniel's voice grew harder with each line. The lies of the officials became clear. They had stolen food meant for starving workers, trading it for their own power. Soraya's eyes filled with tears. This is what Kellen discovered. He wanted to speak at the council, but before he could, they accused him of betrayal. They poisoned him, and then called me insane to silence me. Daniel closed the journal. His jaw tightened. It is no madness, it is murder. And now they will hunt us both because of this. The barn creaked as wind whistled through broken wood. Daniel packed the journals again. His soldier's instinct told him to move quickly. But Soraya grabbed his arm. If we run forever, the truth dies with us. We must show this to someone who will listen. Daniel shook his head. Who, everyone in power, is against you. They will burn this proof before it ever reaches the people. But Soraya's eyes burned with quiet fire. Not everyone, there are still honest ones, hidden in the crowd, waiting for courage to lead them. If we speak, others will rise, but only if you stand with me. Her words struck him deep. Daniel had once fought wars for orders, never for truth. But now he realized that truth itself was a battlefield, and he was already standing in the middle. Before he could answer, the sound of hooves broke the silence. Torches flickered in the distance. Guards were searching the outskirts. Daniel quickly hid the box beneath straw and pulled Soraya behind a wall. The barn filled with shadows as soldiers passed by, their voices sharp. Find them. The woman must not live. The human too. Soraya trembled, clutching Daniel's sleeve. He steadied her with a firm whisper. Stay quiet. Trust me. The soldiers lingered for a long moment, their boots crunching against the ground. Finally, they moved on. The torches fading into the night, silence returned. Broken only by Soraya's shaky breath, Daniel pulled the journals out again, holding them as if they were weapons. We need a plan, he said. Running will not save us, hiding will not save us. The only way is to strike back, to let the truth spread faster than their lies. Soraya's voice steadied. There is one place, a gathering where both humans and my people meet. The old market square at night. Traders and wanderers come from every corner. If we show them this, the story will travel beyond the colony. They will not be able to bury it again. Daniel considered her words. The risk was great. If they stood before the market crowd, the guards would surely come, but the proof in his hands was too strong to ignore. The widow's eyes shone with a mix of fear and hope. Kellen always said truth cannot stay buried forever. It waits like a seed under stone, until someone is brave enough to lift the weight. Daniel finally nodded. Then we will go tomorrow night. That night they barely slept. Daniel sat awake with the journals on his lap. His mind painted images of angry crowds, of soldiers rushing in, of death, but deep inside, a stronger image lived, the chance that truth might burn brighter than fear. When morning came, they disguised themselves. Daniel wore his old work clothes, dirtied to look common. Soraya hid under a thick cloak, her face covered. Together they walked through side paths, always watching for soldiers, always hearing whispers behind them as the sun fell. The market square lit with lanterns, traders called out their wares. Voices rose in laughter and bargaining. A crowd had gathered, restless but unaware of what was about to happen. Daniel and Soraya stepped into the middle. The widow's hands trembled, but she held her head high. Daniel opened one journal, his voice loud enough for all to hear. These are the writings of Kellen. A leader who was murdered for speaking truth? They said his wife was mad, but she is not. She carries his words, his proof. Listen to what they tried to hide. The crowd grew silent. Faces turned toward them. Soraya pulled back her hood. Gasps spread quickly, whispers rose. The widow. She lives. I thought she was insane. Her voice broke the silence, trembling but clear. They called me mad so you would not hear me. They poisoned my husband so you would not trust him. But these pages speak louder than lies. The square shifted with unease. Some eyes showed doubt, others curiosity, but in that moment, the truth had been placed in the open air. Impossible to stuff back into the shadows. Daniel felt the crowd's tension rise. He knew soldiers would come soon. He knew danger was only breaths away, but for the first time, he also knew the secret was no longer buried. The truth was out, and the colony would never be the same again. The market square trembled with whispers after Daniel read the first lines of the journal. People pressed closer, their eyes wide. Soraya's voice carried across the lantern-lit crowd. Breaking years of silence, they lied to you. They called me mad so you would not believe me. They murdered Kellen so you would not follow him. But here is his truth. Gasps spread, some shook their heads in disbelief. Others clenched their fists in anger. The journals passed from hand to hand, eyes scanning the words that revealed bribes, stolen food, secret dealings, and betrayal. For a moment, the weight of silence lifted, but then the sound of boots struck the cobblestones. Soldiers stormed into the square, torches blazing, armor clashing. Their leader raised his voice, sharp and furious. Seize them, the traitor widow and the human who aids her. Kill them if they resist! The crowd split in fear. Some backed away, some tried to block the soldiers, but none dared to stand fully against them. Soraya gripped Daniel's arm. Her eyes wide with panic, Daniel's heart pounded. He grabbed the journals from trembling hands and shoved them under his cloak. Run, he whispered. They pushed through the crowd. The widow's cloak fluttering, soldiers shouted, swords flashing in the firelight. The chase began. Daniel dragged Soraya into the narrow alleys. Their footsteps echoed against stone. The air grew tight with smoke from burning torches. Behind them, soldiers roared. Stop them! Block the path! Soraya's breaths came fast. Her legs weak, but she forced herself forward. Daniel held her steady, his soldiers' training guiding every step. He knew the alleys, the shortcuts, the blind corners where one could vanish. But tonight every turn felt more dangerous. They reached a dead end, a wall of crates stacked high. Daniel cursed under his breath. The soldiers' voices grew louder. Soraya's face drained of color. We are trapped, she whispered. Daniel scanned the wall, his eyes sharp. He spotted a narrow passage at the top, a crawl space between roofs without thinking. He boosted Soraya up. Climb, hurry! She struggled but pulled herself up. Daniel followed, his muscles burning. Just as the first soldier turned the corner, Daniel vanished into the gap above. The soldier shouted in rage, but arrows clattered uselessly against the walls. They crawled across the roofs, tiles cracking beneath their weight. The city below glowed with lanterns, but to Daniel, it felt like fire closing in. Soraya gasped, clutching his hand as they leapt from one roof to another. Behind them, soldiers tried to follow, but many fell, their armor too heavy. Still, the hunt did not end. Horns blared through the night, echoing across the colony. Find them. Do not let them escape. Daniel and Soraya dropped into another alley, running through shadows, their breaths ragged, their clothes torn. The journals pressed against Daniel's chest felt like burning iron. He knew if he lost them, everything would be for nothing. At last, they reached the outer edge of the colony, where the metal walls stood tall. Guards were stationed at the gates, but Daniel knew another way. A drainage tunnel that led into the forest. This way, he whispered, guiding Soraya through broken ground. But before they could reach it, torches appeared ahead. Soldiers had blocked the path. Soraya froze, terror in her eyes. Daniel's hand tightened on her shoulder. Stay behind me, the soldiers charged, blades gleaming. Daniel fought with bare fists and stolen steel, his movements sharp, trained. He knocked one to the ground, dodged another's strike. Soraya screamed as a soldier grabbed her cloak. Daniel's blade flashed, the soldier fell. Blood stained his hands. But there was no time to think. More were coming. Daniel pulled Soraya through the fight. Pushing her toward the tunnel, arrows hissed past them, one slicing across Daniel's arm. Pain burning, but he did not stop. They stumbled into the dark tunnel. The air damp and foul. Water dripped from stone. Soldiers shouted behind them, torches throwing light into the darkness. Daniel half-carried Soraya, his legs aching. His vision blurring from blood loss. At last they emerged into the forest, tall black trees rising like guardians. The night was cold, the air fresh, but freedom was only fragile. Behind them, the horns still sounded. They are in the woods. Find them. Soraya collapsed onto the ground. Her chest heaving, Daniel knelt beside her, blood running from his arm. His voice rough but steady. We are not safe yet, but we live. And as long as we live, the truth lives. Soraya looked at him, her eyes glowing faintly in the moonlight. They will not stop. They will burn the world to keep their lies hidden. Daniel pressed the journals to his chest. Then we keep running until we find those who will listen. We will not let your husband's truth die. The forest swallowed them as they moved deeper. But behind them, torches spread through the trees. The chase was not over, it had only begun. The forest was alive with the sound of pursuit, horns echoed, dogs barked, and the glow of torches cut through the darkness like fireflies of war. Daniel pushed Soraya forward, his body aching, his wounded arm burning, yet his grip on the journals never loosened. Soraya stumbled, her voice trembling. We cannot keep running. They will hunt us until we collapse. Daniel stopped beneath a twisted tree, his chest heaving. He looked at her pale face, her tired eyes, and then at the darkness behind them. Filled with shouts and footsteps, he knew she was right. They could not outrun this forever. At some point, they had to stand. His soldier's instinct returned, that old voice inside whispering of battlefields long gone. He had once fought for generals who cared little for truth, but now he realized this fight was different. This was not for land or power, this was for a widow, for justice, for humanity itself. Daniel knelt, gripping Soraya's shoulders. Listen to me, we will not run anymore. They expect us to break, but we will not tonight. We fight, her lips parted in fear. Fight with what? You have no army, no weapons. Only me and those papers. Daniel's eyes hardened. Sometimes that is enough. I have seen armies fall because one man refused to yield. I will not yield, not tonight. Soraya stared at him, stunned by the fire in his voice. For a moment she saw not a tired worker, but the soldier he once was. They moved deeper into the forest until they found a clearing. Moonlight shone down like silver. Daniel quickly set Soraya behind a cluster of rocks. Stay low, keep the journals safe. If I fall, you must run and carry the truth forward. She shook her head, tears forming. No, I will not leave you. You gave me back my life. I will not let you throw away yours. Daniel touched her arm gently. I am not throwing it away. I am showing them that one human will not bow to their lies. Humanity is not about fear. It is about standing even when standing means death. Before Soraya could reply, the forest erupted. Torches spilled into the clearing. Soldiers shouted, blades drawn. They saw Daniel standing tall in the center, blood on his arm, his face lit by the moon. Their leader sneered. Foolish human, do you think you can protect her? You will die like the rest who stood against us. Daniel's voice rang across the clearing. Steady and strong, maybe, but if I die, the truth will live. You can kill a man, but you cannot kill what he stands for, the soldiers charged. Daniel roared. His fists and stolen blade moved like lightning. He struck down one, kicked another. His body burned with pain, but his spirit rose higher with each blow. He fought like a storm, a lone man against a tide. Soraya watched in awe, clutching the journals. Tears ran down her face. She whispered, Kellen, do you see he fights for us? For you. Daniel's strength began to falter, his wounds heavy. A soldier's sword slashed across his side. Blood sprang, yet he refused to fall, his voice thundered. I will not let you silence her again. He tackled the leader to the ground. Punching with fury, the soldier clawed at him. But Daniel's rage was unstoppable. With one final strike, the leader fell unconscious. The other soldiers froze, hesitation in their eyes. They had expected an easy kill, but instead they faced a man who fought like fire itself. Some stepped back uncertain. Daniel stood tall despite his blood, his chest rising and falling like a drum of war. His voice carried across the clearing. You call her mad because you fear her truth. You call her a liar because you fear your own lies. But I am human and I will stand beside her. If you want her, you will have to go through me again and again until I no longer breathe. Silence spread. The soldiers looked at one another, doubt flickering in their eyes in that moment. Daniel's humanity cut deeper than any blade. His defiance broke through their fear-driven loyalty. Soraya rose slowly, her cloak falling. Her voice rang out clear and strong. I am no mad woman. I am a widow robbed of her husband. My people deserve to know. Your people deserve to know, and tonight you have all seen, truth is stronger than lies. And humanity stands with me. The soldiers lowered their weapons. Some backed away into the shadows, a few dropped their torches, unwilling to face the man who refused to yield. Daniel staggered, his body trembling. Soraya rushed to his side, holding him up. He smiled faintly despite the blood. Do you see, you are not alone anymore. They cannot silence you, not now. Soraya held him tightly, her voice breaking. And you are not alone either. Not while I live. The forest grew quiet again. The soldiers were gone, the truth was still in their hands. And though Daniel's body bled, his spirit had risen higher than ever. For the first time since the nightmare began, Soraya believed they could win, not with armies, not with power, but with the courage of one human who refused to bow. The clearing was silent after the fight. The torches left behind by the soldiers smoldered in the dirt. Daniel leaned against a rock, blood dripping from his wounds. But his eyes were steady. Soraya knelt beside him, her hands pressed to his side, whispering words of comfort. You should rest, she said softly, her voice trembling. You gave everything tonight. You cannot give more. Daniel managed a faint smile, his breath heavy. I am still breathing. That means I still have more to give. The journals lay open on the ground, the ink glowing under moonlight like scars carved into the pages. Soraya touched them gently. These are more than words, they are weapons. But weapons cannot win if hidden. We must carry them into the light. Daniel nodded weakly. Then tomorrow we go to the council square. Not just the market, not just the shadows, but before everyone. We will show them the truth where no one can deny it. Soraya's eyes widened, fear and hope battling within her. They will kill us in front of the crowd. Maybe, Daniel admitted, but maybe they won't. Maybe the people will finally see. And once the truth is seen, it cannot be buried again. The night stretched long. Daniel drifted in and out of sleep while Soraya kept watch. Holding the journals close, her heart ached with both dread and determination. For the first time since Kellen's death, she felt her husband's spirit standing with her, guiding her, telling her she was not alone. When dawn broke, the two of them walked slowly back toward the colony. Daniel's steps unsteady, Soraya supporting him. Villagers stopped and stared as they passed, whispers spreading quickly. The widow, the human who stood with her, they survived. By midday, the council square filled with people. Soldiers lined the edges, tense and waiting. But the crowd was too large to silence. Curiosity had become hunger. Hunger had become unrest. And now all eyes turned to Daniel and Soraya as they stepped into the center. The council leaders sat upon their high seats. Their faces cold, one of them shouted, "Seize them, they spread lies. They bring chaos," but Daniel raised his voice. Raw but powerful. Lies are what you fear, not what we bring. He pulled the journals from his cloak and held them high. These are the writings of Kellen, a man you called a traitor. But here is his truth. You poisoned him, you stole from the people. You sold lives for your power. Gasps spread like wildfire. Soraya stepped forward, her hood falling back, her voice clear. They called me mad because I knew. They tied me, starved me, silenced me. But tonight you see I'm not mad. I am a widow carrying my husband's truth, and this man, a human, stood beside me when no one else dared. The crowd roared. Anger rose, not at Soraya, but at the leaders who sat frozen in fear. People shouted, "Show us, read the words, and no more lies." Daniel opened the journal and read aloud. His voice carried names, dates, deals, the betrayal that starved families while leaders grew rich. Every word cut deeper than any blade. Soldiers shifted uneasily, many lowering their weapons as the crowd's fury swelled. One council leader tried to shout, "This is forged. She is insane," but the crowd turned on him, voices sharp. Then why fear her? Why starve her? Why silence her if she was nothing? The truth spread faster than the lies could cover it. Torches were raised, fists lifted. The people no longer believed the council's words. They believed the widow and the human who bled for her. Daniel swayed, his strength nearly gone. But Soraya caught him. She lifted his arm high, her voice breaking but strong. This is humanity. To stand when standing is dangerous, to fight when fighting means death. To protect even when you have nothing left. He gave me back my voice. And now I give it to you. Take it, carry it, and never let them bury it again. The square erupted. The people surged forward. The council powerless soldiers backed away, unwilling to fight their own neighbors. The rule of fear cracked, and in its place, the fire of truth began to rise. Daniel collapsed to his knees. Exhausted, Soraya held him close, whispering, "You did it, you gave them courage." Kellen would be proud. Daniel's faint smile returned. His eyes half closed. It wasn't me, it was us. It was humanity. The crowd's voices filled the air. A thunder of rebellion. Soraya's tears fell freely, but they were no longer tears of despair. They were tears of hope. That night, the colony changed forever. The widow once called mad became a voice of justice. The journals became a banner of truth. And the human who stood when no one else dared became a symbol of what humanity truly meant. Because in the end, lies may bury the body, but truth cannot be buried. Truth rises, carried by those who are brave enough to stand.